I get you something?
Your mofo butter laying me to the bone, jacking me up. Tight me.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Cuddy say can't hang.
Oh, stewardess, I speak jive.
Oh, good.
He said that he's in great pain and he wants to know if you can help him.
All right, would you tell him to just relax and I'll be back as soon as I can with some medicine?
Just hang loose, blood. She's gonna catch up on the rebound on the med side.
What it is, Big Mama? My mama raised no dummies. I duck a rap.
Cut me some slack, Jack.
Say
Just-
Cuddy
just-
can
just-
tell
just-
me.
just-
We
just-
say
just-
be
just-
doing
just-
everything.
Chump don't want to help. Chump don't get the
Say
help.
can't hang. Say 7-Up.
Jive ass dude don't got no brains anyhow.
It's Two Dads, One Movie. It's the podcast where two middle-aged dads sit around and shoot the shit about the movies of the 80s and 90s. Here are your hosts, Steve Paulo and Nick Brianna. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Two Dads, One Movie. I'm Steve.
And I'm Nick.
And today we are kicking off our march through the decades of the 80s and 90s that we're calling Two Dads, Two Decades with a 1980 film, the comedy Airplane. And, super excited, Nick, to talk to you about Airplane.
Yeah.
This was my pick. So just real briefly, I actually have a great little anecdote about when I first saw this movie.
Okay.
I saw this movie when I was 2 years old. Not joking. My parents had it on laserdisc. We had a laserdisc. I confirmed this with my mother this week. We had a laserdisc player in the house before we ever had a VCR. My parents did not get a VCR until they wanted to start recording like sports games off of TV.
Yeah.
That's when they first got a VCR. So we had laserdiscs. We had all the original Star Wars releases on laserdisc. We had a bunch of movies, and this was one of them. And for whatever reason, my parents would watch it with me. I would sit there, literally like at 2 years old, maybe three, like maybe right after my third birthday, but like a little kid watching this movie with my parents. Hey, it's rated PG, right? What could go wrong?
Right. We're guiding you.
Yeah. Also, they decided to maybe be a little more careful about what I watch when at 3 years old, I looked up at them and said, "What a pisser." They were like, "Oh, hey, maybe we should rethink the whole toddler watching Zucker-Abrahams-Zucker movies."
I love that Airplane was your Bluey. That's really
Yes,
funny.
exactly.
Steve, put Steve down in front of Airplane. That'll calm him down.
Raised by Ted Stryker. Yeah. So, Nick, what's your history with Airplane?
I think I did see this young. This was one that my dad would have been excited for me to see.
There you go.
So I think it was, broadcast on TV at some point when I was, I don't know, 8 years old or something
Sure.
like that. So yeah, I remember seeing it a bunch. I love this style. I love the Police Squad, the Naked Gun, all that stuff, anything I could get my hands on. And I've seen this one a bunch. So yeah, this is one that's kind of always been there for me.
Nice. Listener, before we get into just the facts, I want to mention that I believe if you're listening to this on release day, that yesterday, Nick and I took a little field trip over to another podcast, and we were on the Cinema 9 podcast with our friends Michael, Eric, and Travis, and we talked about the movie Executive Decision. So if you haven't heard that, please go check it out. I'll see if I can put a link to it in the description of the podcast episode in your podcast player. Not sure if that actually works right, but I'll try. But yeah, go check out Cinema 9 and their episode on Executive Decision, because we're on it, and you obviously like listening to us. And
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And it's a lot of fun, and their podcast is great.
Absolutely.
So you should also check out their podcast.
100%. All right, now let's jump into the facts on Airplane. The movie Airplane was released on June 27th, 1980. With a rating, with a PG rating. This, of course, this was before the PG-13 rating existed. Clearly would have been a PG-13
For sure, yeah.
if it had existed at the time. A running time of a super crisp 88 minutes, directed and written by the Kentucky Fried Theater, the partnership of David Zucker, Jim Abrahams, and Jerry Zucker, starring Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, and Leslie Nielsen. Scores. The highest Rotten Tomatoes score we've ever seen on Two Dads, One Movie, 97% fresh.
Crazy.
Really crazy. It actually is 1% higher than the previous record, which was held collectively by both This Is Spinal Tap and The Fugitive. Those are both 96s. So the highest we've ever seen. IMDb, not quite as astronomical a score of 7.7, but we did get 2 thumbs up from Siskel and Ebert on this movie.
Our dads finally agreed.
Exactly. Awards. A couple of really high-end nominations, but not wins. It was nominated at the 1981 Golden Globes for Best Comedy or Musical. Did not win. It was nominated at the 1981 BAFTA Awards, which again is sort of the British Oscars, for Best Screenplay. Did not win there. However, it did win at the 1981 WGA Awards, that is the Writers Guild of America, Best Adapted Comedy Screenplay, and we'll get to that in a minute. It was also added to the National Film Registry in 2010. on a budget of $3.5 million, which, given some of the effects and the sort of disaster nature, was actually pretty impressive for the time. It pulled in it's an absolutely wild number for the time, $83.5 million. That is 23.9 times what it cost to make, which is, unfortunately for Airplane, we've already seen A Nightmare on Elm Street. So that is the second highest multiple.
Wow.
Elm Street was around 30x. So very similar kind of blow it away kind of thing.
Still a good day's work.
Absolutely. It also, created the careers basically of the ZAZ kind of comedy troupe. So it gave us so many more great movies after this. Couple other bits, little extra facts on Airplane. This is essentially a shot for shot. Maybe that's a little much. It is a remake spoof, not just of like disaster movies in general, but specifically of the 1957 film 0 Hour. So much so that on IMDb, the screenwriters of 0 Hour are listed as uncredited writers on this film.
Wow.
And I had the pleasure of watching 0 Hour yesterday. After watching Airplane and taking my notes on it, I went ahead and watched 0 Hour. It's really interesting. The main character's name is Ted Stryker. He is he flew in, quote, the war, but this was in 57. So the war was World War II and not Vietnam, obviously, but all very similar stuff. And so many of the lines in Airplane that aren't jokes, that are just serious exposition, are pulled directly from 0 Hour, like the same thing.
Oh, that's funny.
Even the, like, I picked a bad week to quit smoking. There's no additional versions of that joke in 0 Hour, but the character that is the sort of more of the Robert Stack character says that in 0 Hour. So they really pulled deliberate stuff. In fact, 0 Hour, the title even ends with an exclamation point like Airplane, which is an interesting
funny
little detail. The movie earned back its production budget in the first 2 days that it was released in cinemas. It earned over $3.5 million in 2 days. And then this I love. I think everybody kind of really understands, really knows that this was like the first comedic role for Leslie Nielsen. I think that's like a pretty well-known fact. He was a serious actor before this. He'd never done a comedy.
Was Police Squad before this, though?
No, that's the thing. That wasn't. That was after.
Okay.
So the Police Squad was like 81, 82. So this was like, because this was the first time he worked with ZAZ as well. So very first comedic role for Leslie Nielsen. But did you also know very first comedic roles for Robert Stack, Lloyd Bridges, and Peter Graves? So that's, 4 major dramatic actors of the era and the decades before. Robert Stack, I know him best from Unsolved Mysteries, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But great comedic stuff. And I love this little note on that. Lloyd Bridges' sons, actors Jeff and Beau Bridges, had to talk him into taking the role. I love the idea of Jeff Bridges and Beau Bridges being like, Dad, this will be so cool. I say it like that, but they were like 40 or something. They weren't like kids, but yeah, those are the facts on Airplane.
All right.
So we can go ahead and get started. And this movie starts off, and I love it. It's an immediate, if you ever want to know the kind of movie you're watching, I feel like it's important to tell us the kind of movie within the first few seconds. Just what kind of movie is this? Am I going to be scared? Is this an action movie? Is this a comedy? Whatever. This is a spoof, and it tells us that right away.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's not exactly the Jaws theme, the famous John Williams Jaws theme, but it's obviously an adaptation.
Jaws-ish.
It's Jaws-ish. It evokes Jaws.
Yep.
And we've just got this cloud cover, and then the tail wing or whatever of a commercial jet looking like a shark's dorsal fin going back and forth a bit. It's just a classic
really
thing.
Good. And just a perfect way to start. Like if you're in the theater watching this for the first time, because they made Kentucky Fried Movie that would have been late 70s or something.
Yeah,
that was kind of
70s,
like a series of sketches rather than one movie. But you have to just be like fist in the air, like so excited just from this very beginning. Because your point about it setting the tone is like absolutely there.
100%. And we even get the shark jumps out of the water sort of as the plane kind of flies over us. And then I love too, so like I'm going to be doing this the whole time, unfortunately, comparing it to elements of 0 Hour, because the opening of 0 Hour is a film from the 50s. So it takes like 2 minutes to get through the credits. And there's literally nothing that happens for the first 2 minutes. So we have all this like dramatic music and establishing shots of like LAX and people driving up and like, nothing really happening.
Yeah.
But we do get this nice little banter back and forth between two people who are doing the like announcements at LAX, right? The red zone the white zone is for the loading and unloading of passengers only. There is no stopping in the red zone. And they go back and forth a little bit until finally, I think it's a man's voice and a woman's voice, and the man's voice screws up and says like, the red zone is for loading and unloading of passengers. There's no stopping in the white zone. And the woman goes, no, the white zone is, don't start up with your white zone shit again. Like, so fun fact about these two, they're actually the voices of the announcements at LAX at the time.
Okay.
They're a married couple who also ended up doing some announcements at Disneyland.
Can you think of a better husband-wife like company to have that you just do voiceovers for announcements?
So
That's
awesome,
dude.
But yeah,
Oh
they
my
went and they
God.
they tracked down and got the actual LAX announcement couple to do the announcement sequence at the beginning of this movie.
And this joke, I love this kind of slow burn of this joke because
Yes.
they repeat it the correct way like 6 times before
Yes.
it gets to like some deviation
Right.
from that, and it escalates from there, and it's really
So
well
fast.
done. And while this is happening, we're seeing kind of all the characters that are going to be on the plane arriving at the airport here.
Yep.
Some other gags. One gag is we have people walking through airport security, which
Right.
back in 1980, oh my God, you got to get there like 10, 12 minutes early sometimes to make your flight. But we have a man comes up, the metal detector goes off, and they say, can you put all your metal objects in this bin? You know, keys, change, pulls off his artificial arm. So folks watching at home, keeping score at home, we've got another missing / artificial limb within the first like 3 minutes of this movie.
That. Yeah, so fast.
Oh my God.
And I love it too, because it's like, it's maybe the worst of the sort of artificial arms scenarios we've seen, because it's meant to be a throwaway gag. It's not like a long-term character. But we've talked about how, like, you know, in Happy Gilmore, Carl Weathers' arm was too long. In Army of Darkness, there are points where Bruce Campbell's arm is too long, right? We think this guy has got clearly 2 arms under the jacket. Like, it's really bad. But it's because he's pulling it off. And it's like from the shoulder down. It's like a full arm he pulls off.
Yeah.
But yes, so we have our missing or artificial limb, so we can check that box off of our checklist. But yeah, so then for some reason, I don't fully understand if we're supposed, I mean, I get it because I've seen the movie a few times, but like, we see the one of the little direction guys out on the tarmac with the light sticks, you know, hey, go this way, and somebody says, hey, where's the something? Oh, it's over there, and he points the other direction and waves his buddy off, at which point the plane that he's been directing turns and crashes through into the terminal. No mention of that ever again in the movie, by the way. That massive, like, that would have been the plot of a movie all its own, potentially. But no, we're just going to move past that.
and the voices going back and forth, you know, it escalates to, you know, not your white zone shit again. And then when it's back to them, it's, oh, you're just saying this because you want me to have an abortion. And he's like, well, it's really the only sensible thing. And therapeutically, there's no long-term damage. And it's just goddamn. And that's even funnier that they're a real life married couple and they're having him do that. So I really love that. And we see Ted, our kind of main character, who's a taxi driver at the beginning. He pulls up as a man's hailing a cab.
Right.
And he pulls up almost onto the sidewalk and runs inside. The guy gets in the cab, and as he's like about to run away, he reaches his hand back in and hits the meter, starts the meter in the cab, and then runs inside. So this is a good running gag.
He says he'll be right back, but he's not going to. He catches up with Elaine, who we meet. They're clearly a couple. He says, like, oh, I got home and, you know, I got your note and I had to come find you, like, whatever. And I'll mention in the movie 0 Hour, our Ted Stryker in that movie does go home and finds from his wife Ellen, so slight difference there, a note saying, I'm leaving and I'm taking our son Joey, keep that in mind, with me. So there's that. But yeah, but this is one of those sequences I was telling you about off the pod, buddy. Like, this whole conversation between Ted and Eileen, where she's telling him, like, for instance, she kind of ends it with, like, you know, it takes more than that for love or something like that, you know, and I can never be with a man who I don't respect and I don't respect you, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
That's all pulled straight from 0 Hour. That is a full conversation that those same 2 characters have in that movie.
Yeah.
Word for word. Like, that's why the writers of that movie had to be somehow considered writers of this one, because there are whole cloth scenes pulled from this 57 film, and that's one of them, is the thing. But then, of course, as Eileen walks away, you know, after saying, like, I can never be with a man I don't respect and I can't respect you, that's when Ted turns to the camera, breaks the fourth wall, and just goes, what a pisser. Which, of course, is what I said at 3 years old, that taught my parents to maybe watch what I was watching.
Oh man. Yeah. And that's so great. I want to read more about like why they were so obsessed with this movie, like why they chose that to be the frame for this, goofy satire parody that they have. One thing that gets me is I think they're walking by the magazine stand, and there's the sections, there's little labels. We have fiction, nonfiction, and whacking material.
Which is, of course, where Captain Oveur is doing his pre-flight check there.
And he's
checking out
reading
the whack material.
His magazine is called Modern Sperm.
Yeah. It's so strange. Oh, man. And then an ambulance arrives, and a girl who's on a stretcher who we learn needs a heart transplant. She arrives and is put on the plane, and is, I think she's there mostly to give us yet another kind of ticking clock element to all this, right? Like there's an urgency to like the plane getting where it needs to be because Captain Oveur gets a call on the white phone or whatever, picks up the red phone. Like, no, the white phone. Oh, sorry, picks up the white phone, and it's a doctor basically saying, a doctor from the Mayo Clinic,
and there's all these mayonnaise jars behind him as he's on the phone. Really funny.
So funny. And he's like, hey, this girl needs to get, we've got the heart here. And of course, there's literally a heart on like a petri dish on his desk, pumping and beating on its own, starts bouncing around ridiculous stuff. But he's like, you got to get her here quick so that we can do this heart transplant. Like, just, don't let there be any delays. It's kind of what he's saying. And there's a joke about ham on 5.
Yeah,
no
so
mayo
he's on this phone and they break in and they say, we got a Mr. Ham, an emergency call on line 5. Yeah. All right, give me ham on 5. Hold the mayo.
Good stuff.
God, a couple other gags here. I mean, Ted decides like, okay, the only way to go after Elaine is that I fly on this flight.
Yeah,
and, he obviously
Gotta
doesn't want
talk
to
to her.
fly.
Yeah.
So he's like, give me one ticket to Chicago, please. Do you want smoking or non-smoking? And he says smoking. And of course, they hand him a ticket, which has this smoke coming off of it.
Yeah.
Great gag.
It's a good one.
Really, really classic. I do love that. I mean, as we'll talk about, there's certain stuff in this movie that does not hold up at all. But there's certain stuff that's so universal that you could show it to somebody who does not speak English, who could lived in any decade, and they would understand why it was funny.
Absolutely. Yeah. The movie does feel a little bit like, it's the needle is buried one direction or the other. It's either like a universal joke that absolutely works just as well today as it did then, or oh my god, I can't believe that they're like nobody would get away with that today. Kind of thing. There's not much in between the two. But yeah, so he gets his ticket. I noticed there's the runway stairs. It's not like a jetway or whatever. Which look, I wasn't flying flights in 1980, but by 1984 I'd been on a plane. And I don't remember. There was always jetways like everywhere. I mean, this is LAX. It's like a modern airport. Like I can't imagine that it's like the one time I had to do runway stairs to get on to a plane was like at Long Beach, like like a kind of a smaller
like a small
airport like that.
You know what though? In movies, like more times than in real life, the main character drives a convertible because it's very friendly to be on film. I wonder if the runway stairs is the same thing, because they almost never show somebody coming down a jetway unless that's part of the gag, like Dumb and Dumber or whatever. But when it's showing someone getting on a plane, it's almost like it doesn't happen, but it makes it look cleaner. Yeah, I don't get it.
I would argue potentially that this is another 0 hour connection, because in the 50s, that was the only way to get on planes. That's definitely how they get on the plane in 0 hour. And then the interior of the plane is so old school, right? Like the overhead compartments don't close. Right. They're just open. The seats are massively wide. Like they're bigger seats than we get in first class today, all throughout the plane. So like, I think some of those choices, those aesthetic choices, are references to the older film potentially. I'm not.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sure.
That makes sense.
But it was something I noticed, is that the seats are enormous. Like everybody's seats are so big.
Everything about air travel looks so good in old movies. Oh my god. The flight attendant is walking down the aisle and she's handing out magazines to everybody, and she comes to this old woman who's sitting next to Ted, and she's like, what do you want to read? And she's like, do you have something light? And this is one of my favorite jokes in the movie. She's like, how about this leaflet on famous Jewish sports legends? Leaflet is just so good. And it's like this is the daintiest little piece of paper.
Yes.
God damn.
Yes. And we meet the two jive talking passengers right after that. And they're talking to the stewardess. And it's not, there's two stewardesses on the flight. So there's Elaine, but then there's also Randy, the other, the blonde woman. And I think it's Randy is talking to them briefly. I can't remember which one, but they're trying to talk to her, and she's kind of, okay, because they're saying, and I only remember is like at one point when they're talking to each other, one of them says, and just made me think of The Wire, the guy goes like, she, and it's translated as golly.
Yes.
It's like so dumb, but great. And then we meet our flight crew. So we've got Captain Clarence Oveur is the captain of flight. And then we have first mate, or whatever they call him, the co-pilot is Roger Murdoch, played by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And then Victor something, I don't remember Victor's last name, is like the navigator, communications guy, whatever, something like that. So there's three of them in this cockpit.
Yeah.
And I love this because in 0 hour, there's only two. I just think it's interesting to point that out, because I think the reason there's three here is strictly to be able to do the joke, we have clearance, Clarence. Roger, what's our vector, Victor? Which is something that has stuck with me like my whole life. I will randomly think, if I hear the name Clarence in almost any context, in my mind, I'll hear, we have clearance, Clarence, Roger, what's our vector, Victor? Like every time.
Totally.
Every time.
Yeah, certain stuff really sticks with you here.
Oh my God.
And so we have Ted, and he's sitting, next to the woman who'd just been handed the leaflet, and he's and she recognizes that, oh, now I know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, this is your ex.
Right, because
you're
Elaine
after this
saw
girl.
him, and then Elaine is like talking like Ted, and she's like so shocked that he's there. And
Yeah.
he's like, we needed to talk. And so the older woman next to Ted is picking up on the vibe here or whatever, and that kind of stuff. So he starts going in on a long story, basically. He's gonna tell her, about like, how's it going? Because she goes to try to read her leaflet, but then he starts talking, and she does that thing.
I love the look on her face.
The sigh with taking the reading glasses back off, like, here we go kind of thing. And he goes into like, honestly, a long ass story, because the cutaway scene is like 6 or 7 minutes long.
It's a very long scene. But, and the certain times when I see it, I think like, God, this is kind of a long part that drags, but there's a lot of really funny shit that happens here.
Yeah.
And he's basically talking about, back when I was in my fictional town in the war, we were at this bar, and it was where all the crustiest cutthroats and swashbucklers and all these things, you could only walk in the door if you knew how to use your fists.
Right,
so
right.
of course a fight breaks out in the bar.
Between two Girl Scouts.
Between two Girl Scouts who are beating up each other in a very funny way, a very theatrical way. There's not a lot of like hands exchanging. It's like one big punch, one big punch, one big punch.
It's like haymakers.
And this always made me laugh so hard. I think when I first saw this and was like aware of it, the thing that made me laugh the hardest is where one of the Girl Scouts throws the other one down the bar, and then her head crashes into the jukebox, and immediately Staying Alive starts playing. Just that moment of like silence, and then down. It was like, oh.
Interesting fun fact about that: they had to slightly speed up.
Not the real version. It is fast.
It is
okay,
faster
I'm not crazy.
So they had to speed up Staying Alive a little bit to get it to fit in the way they wanted to use it, and they needed to get approval from the Bee Gees to do it.
Okay.
So apparently when you license a recording for a movie, you're licensing the recording as is. They needed to get special approval. I think they sped it up. It's like a 1.15x or something like that, where it's just a little bit faster.
I thought I was remembering it wrong.
No,
I thought I was going crazy because I'm like, this is the real song, but something's weird about it.
The pitch was slightly higher, which with the Bee Gees is hard to tell sometimes because obviously they're high pitched singers, especially Barry. And so, but I agree. Like you could tell there was just a little difference. I also noticed still, however, the whole song plays. This is very much a Rocky IV scenario where the whole song plays. It is 3 minutes and 42 seconds long of playing the song in the movie. And when Ted and Elaine begin dancing, because Elaine's dancing with this random guy who then gets stabbed in the back for some reason by somebody. And it's really funny because as he's motioning towards the knife, she thinks it's a dance move. So she's like mimicking his moves or whatever, pointing to her back. But then when Ted walks up to her and starts dancing with her, their dancing goes on for almost 2 whole minutes.
Yeah,
like,
that's
it really
a long
is
scene.
Like a big thing. And it's funny, but it is pretty long.
With Ted sitting at the bar, and it's just kind of a voiceover of Ted telling the story, and he's in his like all white military uniform, and he sees Elaine out there, and he says, I had to asked the guy next to me to pinch me to make sure I wasn't dreaming, and it shows him kind of lean over and whisper to the guy, and the guy gives him this look like, what? And he gets up and walks out. I always love that part.
That's a good one. Oh my God.
So funny scene. It is long, and kind of ends with they're together, and then the last joke is that Girl Scout fight still going on as they're like sweeping up the bar at the end of the night.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a sequence of very clear wire work during the dance where Elaine is sort of, the idea is that she's got Ted by Ted's ankles, but is swinging him fast enough to keep him parallel to the ground. Very funny, but obviously like pretty obvious what's happening with the effects, but it's okay. It works.
So he's got some moves, and he's, then back on the plane, he's wrapping up his story to the old woman, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I hope this isn't boring you, and looks over, and her feet are just hanging like, she had hung herself from something 10 feet above there. God. Really funny, but like brutal, like very dark,
the number
very
of dark,
not PG rated. Humor.
That's the thing is like, that's here's the reason why I think I could watch this when I was like 2 or 3. So many of these jokes just went completely over my head. There's no way I would understand any of it.
Yeah. I wouldn't have known what that meant. Yeah.
So, but that's what happens. There's a great little moment here where, a kid, I think, is it Joey? Is it the one little boy on the plane?
I think it's a different kid. Yeah.
That's right. It is a different boy because he has all his teeth. But yeah, so he walks up to this little girl. It's like 2 little, like 10-year-olds, maybe something like that. And, one of them, the boy's got a platter and it like offers him, would you like some coffee? I was just passing by. I thought you might like some coffee. And she's like, oh, thank you so much. And would you like some cream? And she says, no, I like it black, like my men. It's like, it's a great joke.
Yeah, that's a funny joke. That's just when especially how they delivered it.
Oh my God.
So then we have a family on the flight, and who have a little boy, Joey,
That's right. Yes.
And he's talking to the flight attendant. He's like, Dad, when do I get to see the cockpit? And he's
Yeah.
like, well, I think the pilot's pretty busy. But then,
Yeah.
pre 9/11, they were like,
Right.
oh yeah, dude, cockpit, come on up,
Come
dude.
on. Yeah.
Cockpit is short for cocktail pit. Come on up and have a drink with the pilot. So he gets brought up to get introduced to the
Yes.
pilots and everything.
Yes. I think before that, Elaine has a memory. She's talking to somebody who was thinking back or whatever on Ted and her, and like when things were good. I think Ted and her are talking, and she's talking about like remembering the good times. And I love it just because it's a reference to From Here to Eternity, which is a classic movie where they're rolling around on the beach in the surf as it's going, very classic scene.
Seaweed.
But then, here they're getting the tide comes in, and they're both just covered in like kelp sacks and things. It just looks horrible. But it's, sort of a funny moment and a deliberate or a direct reference to From Here to Eternity. We get Joey coming up to the cockpit now. This is funny because in 0 Hour, the character Joey, who's actually Ted's son, does come to the cockpit, meets the captain and the co-pilot, and is handed a little model plane. Hey, this is something we give to our most, special guests or whatever.
What a lie.
And yeah, exactly. And he's like, Joey, have you ever been in a cockpit before? Oh, geez, no, sir. I've never even been up in a plane before. Like that, all that comes straight out of 0 Hour.
Okay.
Then we go a step further in Airplane when Captain
You ever seen a
Oveur-
grown
You ever
man
seen a
naked?
grown man naked? This stuff does not hold up. This is definitely all of the Captain Oveur stuff with Joey had my toes were curled. It's very cringy and very like not something you would see today.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's there.
It's funny. I mean, it's a funny, especially in light of the original having that line.
Yes.
If you're thinking like, how do we raise the stakes
Yes.
and make this a joke? Like that's a good way to
How do we
it.
turn something innocent and whatever into something funny and that'll make people uncomfortable?
Right.
I mean, that's literally what they're trying to do.
And if they
work.
challenge themselves with like, how close to the real
Yes.
script can we keep it and still cram it full of jokes?
Exactly.
So let's see. Oh, Ted, there's kind of a flashback of Ted at the VA.
Oh yeah, the hospital.
right?
Yes. Mhm.
And he's there and there's different people suffering and Elaine's there and Ted is painting this picture. So he's laying in bed and he's doing this painting, which is like a guy with his arm behind or his leg
yeah.
like back behind his neck, holding a baby upside down in full military gear with an exploding Jeep behind
Yes.
him, right? Which extremely my shit.
Yeah, right.
That is the exact kind
I'm
of thing I
surprised
would
you
want to
haven't-
paint.
you
I
haven't
know.
painted this yet.
I
Like,
gotta
wait a
do
minute.
that. I love that so much. So yeah, so he's there and Elaine is I think she informs him that one of his team
Right.
members, George Zip, was dead. So he's basically feels responsible for 7 guys
Yes.
getting killed.
Yeah, exactly.
Here. And then it kind of cuts away from the seriousness where he's like, oh, what's happening to this guy? Oh, he thinks he's still in the war. And the guy's like, they're down here in the tunnel and going under his blanket. And then the other guy, what's wrong with him? Oh, severe shell shock. He thinks he's Ethel Merman, which again, not a joke for 2025, but in 1980, dude.
Well, and it was Ethel Merman.
Yeah,
So
and really
actually her.
funny for her to be like, okay, we want you to very earnestly like pop up and sing your song while you then get restrained
Yeah,
by the people that work at the hospital. Like that's a very
good
funny
sport.
scene.
She's funny. She's good sport. Yeah. And there's a moment in here where Elaine's talking, about like the meeting at headquarters and Ted goes, what's that? She goes, well, it's a big building where the generals meet, but that's not important right now. And it's good because that's not important right now. Comes back like 3 more times or
Yeah.
something like that. I think we skipped it just a little bit back in the cockpit. Joey points out to Roger Murdoch that he's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yes.
And there is just a huge thing where he's like, my dad says you don't try very hard except for the playoffs. And Kareem's like, hey, you tell your old man I bust my butt out there every day. You try dragging Walton up and down the court. Like it was very funny thing with Kareem.
Oh, a quick Kareem thing
Yeah.
that I looked into. So I was thinking about this movie where Kareem's in it, and then thinking about Naked Gun, one of our favorites
Right.
that we've done before, which has not only O.J. Simpson but also Reggie Jackson.
That's right. Yep.
O.J. Simpson, 1973 NFL MVP.
Okay.
Reggie Jackson, 1973 American League MVP. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 1973-74 NBA MVP.
Wow.
I haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure Phil Esposito is in Dracula Dead and loving it. Like, it's crazy to have like the
That's
best of
wild.
the sports all from that year, from that
Yeah.
era. So,
That's so cool.
I wonder if the Zuckers were kind of just like, oh, it'd be cool to get these athletes that we were all, if they were sports
I almost
fans or
feel
what
like
it
it'd be
was.
more fun if they had no fucking clue whatsoever that was a thing, didn't care about sports, just
Yeah.
thought it'd be funny to put these athletes in their movies. And later that was total coincidence. That for some reason that seems much more
Yeah, that's
Kentucky
true.
Fried Theater.
But yeah, I thought that was a very funny coincidence that like in that specific year, these were
Yeah.
all top of their game.
That's
guys.
crazy. That's so funny. Yeah. So now we get one of the stewardesses, Randy. She talks to a nun and is like, "Hey, can I borrow your guitar? There's this girl up there who, like I could play a song for her. She needs a heart transplant, like whatever. This poor girl is in like a stretcher, like in a hospital bed, IVs and everything."
Yeah.
And so Randy gets the guitar from the nun. She sits down. She starts playing, some pseudo-religious sort of groovy and relevant song, whatever, from the 60s. And but she sits down next to the girl and it's okay. But when she like starts playing with some fervor, she like knocks the girl's IV out.
Yeah, with the neck of the guitar, she's swinging it around.
Why does that make the girl's face pucker up? Like, I don't.
An IV
get
is
it.
a slower drip than that, so I mean that wouldn't happen necessarily. But
I think it must be like she needs a heart transplant. So I'm guessing whatever she's hooked up to is pumping her blood. I would guess. And so I guess maybe it's like a circulatory thing or something. I don't know. It's very strange. But she gets like fish mouth. Like
that joke is so funny to me. And it's like, if the whole purpose of having this girl on the plane is just to do the joke where you're too into your song that you're knocking the IV out with the guitar neck, and the mom is just like clapping and grooving in the background, not paying any attention.
I don't think we see that girl again in the movie.
It's kind of disregarded
that
after
joke
that.
happens and then we're good. Like, oh man.
Here's something that didn't hold up.
Oh, the whole Peace Corps thing. Yikes. Yeah. Just in general, like the made up tribal name that they use. I don't remember, Malumbo, Majumbo, so whatever. It's not super great. And like, the whole thing of like, we taught them how to play basketball. Like he just got out a hoop and a ball, and then suddenly they're all
like amazing.
The Harlem Globetrotters kind of thing. It's like, oh god.
I wonder how Kareem felt about that.
Yeah,
like looking back. But yeah, so this is kind of their backstory, and there's kind of a funny joke of Elaine. We're trying to teach them our ways, and at first it's just like, this is how you plant corn, whatever. But then it's like she's having like a Tupperware party for them and everything.
Say her stuff is a little more funny and holds up a little better than Ted's stuff. A little bit. Yeah,
but it's also one of those things where in 1980 you could make a joke and be like, oh, he's a black guy, he must be good at basketball, and it's like, okay, we're not really, that's not the thing anymore.
I do want to point out, so the man that he is saying that story to is of course James Hong, who is David Lopan in Big Trouble in Little China, along with a bunch of other, the dude literally, I looked it up. First of all, I love it because every single movie James Hong has ever been in, he's got that accent, he's got that thick, very thick accent, and the thing about it is that he was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That man has done 466 roles. He has 2 upcoming. He is like 93 years old and he's still working. So kudos to James Hong.
Wow.
Like that is fantastic. But yeah, he's playing, I think he's credited as Japanese soldier. Is how
because he's in like a uniform with medals and everything.
So,
and they did that just for the seppuku joke,
for
right?
Exactly, being able to do seppuku and try to kill himself. He did kill himself. That's right. He's one of the victims of Ted's stories. There is one guy that survives, but it's not him. But I just thought that was interesting. When I looked up James Hong, I was like, just looking for his credits, and then in the bio, it's like born in Minneapolis, Minnesota in like 1931 or something. I'm like, what? Like I assumed he was a Chinese national.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, nope.
One thing during the flashback, during the Peace Corps thing, at the very end of that, he does say, oh, this stressed me out. I think this is what led to my drinking problem, where he opens his mouth and then kind of pours the glass right below his eye. So that was a good joke. That was a good part of that section.
Does come back several times throughout the movie that he has this issue with getting the liquid into his mouth. Over and over again. Okay.
So some of the passengers now are kind of like starting to feel ill.
Right. They're sweating a lot. They're complaining of stomach aches, like whatever. And so the one of the stewardesses mentions it to the captain. The captain says, we'll see if there's a doctor on board. So they start asking around, and there's a woman who's like, miss, I think the man sitting next to me might be a doctor. And it's Leslie Nielsen.
And he's wearing a stethoscope with it in his ears.
Because, you got to give away that it's a doctor. But like, loved Leslie Nielsen. So great. So good to see him.
He's the best.
And then, so he goes over to the first woman, and I'll totally admit, this is a gag I've never understood, and I still don't get it. But the woman clearly has like a hard-boiled egg or something in her mouth.
Yeah.
You can see it a little bit at first, and he goes, like, and so he does the thing where clearly he
has one
producing one from his own hand, whatever, so that it can look like he's pulling more and more and more out of her mouth. And one of them breaks open, and it's a bird inside.
Yeah.
What the fuck is all that? Like, what is this? Like, I don't get it.
Just for goofiness. The bird also flies towards the back of the plane and looks like it legitimately scares one of the jive talking guys. Because you see the bird like go back, and then you see a guy be like, and like kind of freak out. And you couldn't train that bird to do that.
No, it just would have flown wherever. Yeah. But it's just, I've been, because I guess my thing about it is like, I want to believe it's making a reference to some kind of symptom or illness. And maybe I'm just thinking about it way too much. And it's just
or maybe
a
it's
funny
like an
thing.
old kind of like vaudeville silent
Yeah,
film, like a way
okay.
to show. Sometimes it's a nod to these old timey jokes.
Yeah.
The family that had the little boy Joey, the two parents. So she had said earlier when they asked if they wanted another cup of coffee, and Jim's like, "Oh, actually, I'll have one." And then in her head, she's like, "Jim never has a second cup of coffee at home."
Yeah.
So when it's back to them, he's now sick from the dinner, and he's throwing up into the vomit bag, and she's like, "Jim never vomits at home."
It's so strange. I love it. Yep.
Oh, okay. So Captain Oveur real quick is talking to Leslie Nielsen, the doctor, and he says something like, "I can't tell you that." He said, "How fast can we land this plane? There's some people getting sick. I can't tell you that. You could tell me. I'm a doctor." And that whole exchange that they have,
I need to get these patients to a hospital. What's that? A hospital. It's a big building with patients, but that's not important right now. Yeah, and then so then quickly, I think Captain Oveur goes back to like see to one of the patients as well, or one of the passengers rather, who's sick as well. So now he and the doctor are out of the cockpit. I think we've already had an issue with Victor. He's already been succumbed. He was like one of the first ones. But now the plane starts in a dive, and everybody starts freaking out, and they go back into the cockpit, and Roger, the co-pilot, is slumped over the yoke, and it's pressing downward. So they get him out of there, and of course, as they pull him away from the waist down, he's in his Lakers uniform, the knee pads, the shoes, everything,
and he's wearing his rec specs.
That's
too.
right. Yeah, that's right. He's got the goggles on and everything because he reverted to Kareem, I guess. Like, yeah. And then I love the doctor starts explaining, Leslie starts explaining to one of the stewardesses, I think, what the symptoms are, like what they should be looking for. And as he's explaining them, Captain Oveur is experiencing every one of the symptoms in order.
Yeah. So and he looks at his plate. They're talking about everyone who had the fish is sick. And he looks, and there's just the perfect like Heathcliff style fish bone on the plate.
Like he did, like he sucked it right off the bone. Like So he is out. So now they have to engage the autopilot.
Yep.
Our buddy Otto, who inflates and begins driving the vehicle. Like I love Otto. Who doesn't?
Really good.
Big inflatable dude.
And so I think we get our first glimpse of the kind of control center there, where we have McCroskey, who's Lloyd Bridges.
Oh, Lloyd
and
Bridges,
he's on
so
there
good.
and he's explaining them what to do. And, after he tells her about the autopilot, he's like, "I picked the wrong week to quit smoking."
That's
and
right.
Lights up a cigarette.
Which again is an actual line from Sterling Hayden's character in 0 Hour, who is actually more of the Captain Kramer, Robert Stack guy in that movie, but he has the same line. He does not have the successive versions of it, but he does have that one. And so then there's a point where the plane starts to dive again, and they're not sure what's going on. At which point Elaine looks over, and Otto has started to deflate. So Lloyd Bridges has got to just tell her, "Oh, there's a manual reinflation nozzle around the belt of the autopilot. You need to get down there and blow."
Yeah.
Okay, so we now have her bent over the doll or whatever, and using her mouth right near its belt, and that's when the doctor comes back into the cockpit and goes, "Never mind," and turns around.
I love that. I love that all his entrances into the cockpit are solid gold, really, in this movie.
Absolutely.
But yeah, him coming in and just seeing kind of the inflated pilot from behind, like leading up. It's like, "Oh, sorry, let me leave you too."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah.
And that, when they show it on TV, that scene is not there.
Is
so
it? Okay.
just kind of shows them smoking cigarettes for no reason after, which is really weird.
That's funny.
So they have to find somebody on this plane who can fly the plane and did not have fish for dinner.
That's right. Yep. And so they ask around, and Ted is like the only one who has any kind of flying experience, and he indeed did not have fish for dinner. So they, bring him up to I think they get him up there by saying that one of the captain needs help, right?
Yeah, right.
One of the pilots is not available, so he just needs help to be helped, which is in 0 Hour exactly how they get Ted into the cockpit as well, by telling him that the co-pilot's down and the captain needs somebody to run the radio. That's like what they tell him.
Oh, okay,
0 Hour,
nice.
and so he gets up there and it's like, "Oh no, both pilots," like that kind of thing, or they're all the pilots or whatever. And so that's when I think the plane starts to dive again, or no, this is when they mention they're looking for somebody who can fly the plane.
Yes.
And that's when the chaos breaks out.
Everyone's freaking out.
And the famous random boobs of Airplane fly onto screen, jiggle for a moment, and then go back off screen for like No good reason whatsoever. Not even sure if that character, I'm not even sure if that actor is on the plane otherwise.
That was almost like, how much can we fit in and still get under the PG
100%.
rating?
That was the push to see, will they make the, if they say this is why it's an R, we'll take it out.
Yeah.
But if we can get away with it, we're going to get away with it.
and it, of course, it keeps cutting back to the guy who's in Ted's cab as the meter's running. Right. It's at like $113 and he's just looking at his watch.
Bro, get out. Get out of the cab. Go.
One of the women, the wife of the man who was vomiting, the mom of Joey, she's like kind of freaking out at the table, and Randy walks up to her and she's like, you got to get a hold of yourself. She's kind of shaking her by the shoulders. And then there's just a random guy behind her, get a hold of yourself. And he slaps her. And then Leslie Nielsen's, I'll take care of this. Get a hold of her. And shaking her harder, slaps her twice, slaps her as he walks away. And then it shows this very funny line of people who all have like increasingly dangerous weapons.
Until someone has a gun.
Someone has a gun.
Great thing about this. So that scene was originally going to be just like it was in 0 Hour. So in 0 Hour, there's only one stewardess and her boyfriend is on the flight, and it's not Ted because Ted's got a wife. So it's a little different setup. But the only stewardess is named Janet, and she's got her boyfriend Rick is flying. So Janet's the one that comes to there's a woman passenger who's freaking out. I got to get out of here. She says, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Whatever. And she like shakes her like, don't. But Janet's the one that slaps her. And then her boyfriend Rick goes, you go take care of the passengers. I'll take care of her. And he doesn't slap the woman. He just shakes her a little more. That's the moment in 0 Hour that they're referencing.
Oh, that's funny.
And apparently, originally it was just going to be Randy and then one more passenger and then Leslie Nielsen, and that was it. And the woman playing the woman being slapped that's getting out goes, wouldn't it be funnier if it was a lot more people who were all pissed at me? And they used it. Like that was literally her idea. It was like, maybe you should have like more people waiting to beat me up.
Oh man,
it's
good
like
for them taking notes
brilliant.
from the talent there. That's a great call by her.
Exactly, because it is. That joke is so much funnier with its ridiculous
one of the best
things. Yeah. So a lot of fun. And then we got to get, so now that Ted's there and he's talking to Chicago, right? Because they're flying LAX to Chicago. And in 0 Hour, it's Winnipeg to Vancouver, not nearly as interesting. But yeah, so they're flying to Chicago and Ted's now on the radio with Chicago and they're talking to him and they realize we got to get somebody who knows this guy, knows how to deal with them. And I don't remember if it's Lloyd Bridges or one of the other characters, like knows that there's this guy, Captain Kramer, who, knows Ted and could maybe like help out or something like that. Right. So they go and they send somebody to Kramer's house. And Kramer, of course, played by Robert Stack, the host of Unsolved Mysteries. When the guy from the airport gets to Kramer's house, he's greeted, in a sense, immediately by the golden retriever, the dog of the house, who is super aggressive, more aggressive than any golden I've ever dealt with.
It was almost a Doberman pinscher.
It was crazy because that dog fucks that guy up.
Yes.
Like so bad.
Oh my God. I spent all of my childhood afraid of dogs. So this was a scene that just made me be like, yeah, God, that's what dogs are like. They suck.
Oh no.
So it's really funny. So he's going to bring Rex Kramer back. And then of course, as they're driving, to the control station, first of all, this guy is fucked up. His glasses are all messed up and he's got scratches on his face and
bruises.
Stuff. And Rex Kramer's just like hitting people. And then there's wild stuff happening behind
It's obviously
them.
very similar to the opening of Police Squad and the Naked Gun, where it's like the crazy looking screen behind the car or whatever, that kind of idea where he's going super fast, turning crazy fast. It looks like he's like driving down Mulholland or something out of the Hollywood Hills. Like it's ridiculous. So he's doing that and they're on their way to the airport. And that's so we're back on the plane. This is when we get the "Don't call me Shirley" line. I think it's right. Shirley, you can't be serious. I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. Just another classic one. But I love that at one point we get Ted looks at the instrument panel in the cockpit, right? Because he's being asked to do this, and it just keeps panning to the right, and there's so many. And two things I'll say about this. One is this immediately made me think while I was watching it of Spaceballs, of the opening of Spaceballs as Spaceball 1 goes by, and it's like even though that was itself a reference to Star Wars, like it still made me think very similar kind of thing. And then in 0 Hour, there's a moment where Ted Stryker looks at the instrument panel, and it is a shit ton of instruments, and it slowly pans over. It's about 2 or 3 seconds worth, not 15 seconds,
right?
But it's this, and it's like clearly that was a direct spoof off of that part as well. So it's so funny how that happens. Wild car blue screen as Kramer is driving to the airport.
And something we didn't talk about earlier is as it's shown people walking through the airport, they've been approached by these different kind of like Hare Krishna,
Oh, yeah,
Mooney,
yeah.
like religious groups, right? The guy would come up, will you accept this flower from the Church of Religious Consciousness?
Yeah.
You know, and there's all these different ones. So that keeps escalating. And when earlier Ted had punched one of them in the face,
right.
and now when Rex Kramer's walking through, he's just like beating them all. Everyone that walks up to him, he's punching him in the
tosses,
face.
like,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm here from the Moonies. Boom, choose for Jesus. Boom, like all over the place. He's just beating these guys up. It's really funny. I like some Rex Kramer here.
Yes, absolutely. It's good stuff. At one point here, Leslie Nielsen has to go out. The doctor has to go out back into the cabin to kind of tell everybody what's going on. And it's so funny because immediately you can see he walks out and he's got his nose is like different, like it looks prosthetic or whatever. And he starts telling him how like everything's going to be fine. And, you know, there's a pilot, you know, that's still in control or like whatever. And he's got the Pinocchio nose that keeps growing as he lies. Very funny stuff.
And one thing is there's a couple scenes of them making an announcement like from the cockpit of, hey, everything's going to be fine. We just hit some turbulence while the flight attendants are like dragging the pilot and the co-pilot down the aisle.
It's like, pay no attention. And I think this is where we get one of the two jive talking guys is really sick. And so his buddy is like trying to get the stewardess's attention and talk to Randy. And they're speaking, you know, jive or whatever, like they're kind of like urban, you know, colloquialisms and she can't understand them. And that's when Barbara Billingsley, right? Like the Leave It to Beaver's mom, right?
Yeah.
June Cleaver gets up to say like, excuse me, stewardess, I speak jive. And sure enough, man, she banters back and forth with them a little bit. I love there's like translation, but it's really, I think you can get the gist of it without the translation. That basically she's saying, you're going to get some help, but you got to wait. And he's like, we can't wait. I don't want to wait. Like, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And then she goes, chump don't want no help. Chump don't get no help.
I had to write that line down too, because that's my favorite part of it. I couldn't begin to quote the rest of it because it moves so fast.
It does.
And whatever. But yeah, that scene is really, really funny.
It's a classic.
And again, we're back at McCruskey. What's his name? McCroskey.
Oh yeah.
You know, now he's already picked the wrong week to quit smoking, quit drinking, and now I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
Amphetamines, right? Which is not the zenith of that joke. We'll get to that one later.
No.
But yeah, and so yeah, and then at some point in here, and I just noticed, I just wrote this note down, but at some point somebody mentioned that the shit'll really hit the fan, and sure enough, they just like briefly throw shit at a desk fan just because, you know. It's like,
yeah. There are a couple of things here that I think were great. So at the control center where McCuskey and Rex Kramer are now, there was all this press that was let in, and they're asking questions, and we're kind of shown that it's spreading the word. You know, it's like a hostage terrorist hostage type thing in Die Hard, where it's all over the news and everything.
Yeah.
And as the press guys are leaving, the guy says, "Okay, boys, let's get some pictures." And then they all just run to the wall and start taking photos off the wall.
So I want this one. I'll take the one over there. I'm gonna go. That's wrong.
And then the other thing is there's a guy in the plane, you know, all the passengers are stressed out, obviously, takes a slug out of his flask. And then he offers it to this very judgmental looking woman. He's like, do you want some whiskey? And she kind of gives him a look like, you piece of shit. And then she goes and starts snorting coke off this little mirror. So great gags there.
So, funny enough, that's another direct 0 Hour reference. So there is a passenger in 0 Hour who's snuck booze onto the plane, like a fifth, like a big bottle of whiskey. And he's got a little bit of like an Irish Canadian accent. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but it's like, and he's talking to the stewardess about how the Argos, because they're flying to Vancouver, the Vancouver Argonauts have a new system where they're running a guy out wide. Like he's talking about Canadian football. And that's earlier in the movie. And then later on, he's sitting next to a woman. And as things are starting to go wrong, he takes a slug from his big bottle and goes, would you like a dram of whiskey? And she goes, certainly not. Which is what the woman does in this one, but then goes to snort the coke off her hand or off the mirror or whatever. But yeah, I thought it was funny that is another direct kind of pull from 0 Hour. And at some point in here, we definitely see Atari basketball being played on a 2600, but I don't actually remember where.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to ask if you knew what that was. I wasn't sure if it was in television or what it was.
I had the 2600 as a kid. That was basketball. It was just, the game was just called basketball. Like, no, back then you could just name the game tennis or basketball or whatever because there weren't that many games.
Yeah.
So that was basketball on the 2600.
One of the guys we haven't talked about who's back at the control station is his character, Johnny. Right. So he's the flamboyant guy back there and everything. And he has some good lines throughout all this. So he'd be like, Johnny, how about some coffee? No thanks. Right. And this one scene really, really killed me where he says, where they're in the control room and they're like, oh, he's gonna have some trouble. The fog is getting thicker, and then Johnny like hops in from the screen and grabs the belly of this random guy, and he goes, and Leon's getting larger, and then just hops out.
So bizarre. Oh, and that's funny because there is a little helper character in 0 Hour named Johnny in the control room who has asked for coffee twice.
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
he just goes and gets the coffee. It's like, how about some coffee, Johnny, or whatever, and he just leaves to go get
Nice.
coffee. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now I think we're getting to the point where we're actually getting ready to land at this point. I think, because are we that far along, or
Yeah, we're getting pretty close. So he's got to psych him up. So I think Ted has come out of the cockpit and kind of decided like, I don't know if I could do this shit. And then Leslie Nielsen, the doctor, comes over and he says, hey, you know, I had a patient, whatever. And it turns out that the patient was this George Zip, who was the last of the guys that he found out was killed from his mission.
That's right. And he said, I'm so glad that the captain made the choice he made because, you know, I don't know why he would be glad, but he was. It basically like helped Ted know, like, hey, at least the guys that died because of your choices, they didn't think you made the wrong call. They didn't blame you, you know, and that can help. And it definitely helps.
And then there was like a win one for the zipper joke.
That's right. Because win one for the Gipper.
Right.
Like,
So, and they had mentioned Ronald Reagan earlier. They said something about, I haven't felt this sick since I saw that Ronald Reagan film, which hella funny.
In the year that Reagan was running for president is when this came out, right? He hadn't even been president yet. He was just governor of California at this point. So yeah, interesting.
But they probably had plenty of time to already start hating him like during that period. So there's like there's a bunch of the Rex Kramer and McCuskey and all these dudes who are in the control center are now in the tower.
Yeah.
And there's a referee there who's introducing the captains to each other. I thought that was very funny.
Yeah, and at one point here, they say, "Hey, we got to put all the lights out on that runway. You know, turn off everything but 9 and or whatever it is." And then it's like all the lights go out. Period. And then we cut to Johnny, who's like standing there next to an extension cord. He goes, I'm just kidding, and he plugs it back in. It's so dumb, but so good.
Another gag is the plane is now flying low on its way to descent, and we see kind of a Chicago skyline with this radio building and an antenna on the back, and it's like WZAZ, where disco lives forever, and the plane wing takes out the antenna. So they're on their way in. They do say something about, let's flood, let's get every light we can on that runway, and then it's just a dump truck full of lamps.
Yes, exactly. Oh, man.
For some reason, they've gone and gotten Captain Over's wife from home.
Yeah. So
was that something to do with 0 Hour?
Yeah. So in 0 Hour, the captain, he was Captain somebody Wilson, maybe or something. It was just different. Was the pilot, and they did. And the thing about that scene, and I think the reason that it was put in this is because when she is called at home, she does not have a horse in the bed like Captain Over's wife or anything crazy like that. There's nobody like with her.
Yeah.
But she is wearing, for a 1950s film, a very slinky negligee.
Okay.
And kind of gets up on one arm to like answer the phone. And it's almost like, is she going to completely fall out of this lingerie she's wearing? So the idea of having this sort of busty, sexy wife of the pilot show up, whatever, was pulled straight from 0 Hour, and then obviously made far more ridiculous the way that they do it in this movie. But it was definitely an homage to that.
And she's great. She looks great and everything. And yeah, she's definitely dressed provocatively and stuff. And during this thing where, you know, Rex Kramer is on the radio with Ted, she's trying to, you know, help him through the landing. And she's increasingly like touching him and all over him. She looks like Erica Kirk on JD Vance. She is all over this guy right now. It's disgusting.
Running hands through the hair. All the bad.
And the flight attendant's telling everyone on the plane, like, get ready for your crash positions.
That's right. Yes, exactly. Assume the crash positions. And this is when I think of right around where Ted has started sweating just a ridiculous amount, right? The water's pouring off of him.
This is one of our sweatiest movies now, just because of that.
Exactly. Also another movie that contains a meme, right? That has absolutely become like a reaction gif used, you know, across the internet, is Ted Stryker sweating like that. I will mention in 0 Hour that Ted Stryker in there also crazy sweaty, the sweatiest person in there. They clearly put tons of water on like his forehead to show how nervous he is. Not quite to the level, obviously, that they take this Ted Stryker, but again, another reference that they went ahead and made crazier, right? And pushed further.
Nice.
But yeah, so he takes it down. You know, they argue with him that he needs to stay up there because the fog is still so thick in Chicago, right? And so you got to stay up there and fly around. He's like, no, we're coming in now. Like, these passengers don't have time, you know. All these sick people, they need to get to a hospital. And so they come in, you know, and then this is like the kind of stressful stuff of like, you're coming too fast, you're too low, you know, whatever. So they hit the ground, and it kind of looks like it's going to be fine at first. And then the landing gear just like rips apart from the plane, and it skids along its belly. But it does stop.
Lands okay.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, they did a good job of making it an actual like kind of suspenseful landing sequence.
Absolutely.
Like, I thought that was very well done in this for it being such a goofy movie.
Yep, absolutely.
Like it was serious in that part,
It was pulled directly from 0 Hour. It's exactly
Nice.
how the plane
Hey.
lands. The landing gear
So
flip
it
off.
lands in no and then they get to come down the in a couple times during this stressful landing thing at the very beginning of it, and then a couple times during Leslie Nielsen pops into the cockpit and he just says, I just want to tell you both, good luck. We're all counting on you. And he does it the exact same way at all these different weird times. So when they finally land the plane and it comes to a stop, he pops in and says it again.
Yeah, and this whole sequence has taught Elaine that Ted, maybe is a stronger, braver man than he'd been lately. So it's clear that they're sort of like getting back together. And everybody leaves the plane through the the inflatable slide, basically, right? The emergency landing thing.
Looks fun.
It does look like fun. A little less so maybe if you're going right down on a tarmac. I feel like that's a rough landing maybe. But yeah, so that's it. Everybody's landed. And then I think it's Kramer, right, gets on the horn with Ted and is like, Ted, like that was probably the worst landing this airport's ever seen. But a lot of people here, myself included, would like to shake your hand and buy you a beer. Which are the final words of 0 Hour.
Okay.
That's how that movie ends completely. But
because then he just keeps yapping and he's talking about like investing in municipal bonds and all this kind of shit.
The best investment you can get, municipal bonds. Sturdy.
And then there's some people as they're coming off the plane that are getting loaded into an ambulance, and the ambulance drives away. And then you hear the crash, and then the hubcap kind of roll back onto the screen, which is really good. So he has a very kind of long kiss scene with Elaine, and then the last thing that they see is they look back towards the plane, and the autopilot, the inflatable autopilot is there, and he looks at them out the window. He's in the pilot seat, and then you see a female inflatable there, and then the plane just like takes off with no landing gears.
Yep.
Really goofy.
Yeah, very silly. But
it seemed like at the end of this, they were kind of like, all right, we've given you enough. So blah, 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 it ends.
almost like, how do we end it?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's
exactly.
just like, what, I don't want to just end it. We should have like one last gag. Well, let's have Otto fly the plane away. It's like, yeah, all right, that works. Oh, man, that's Airplane.
That is Airplane.
Gosh darn it. That's a crazy movie. Oh, man. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and give my my 2 cents first. I really like this movie. I mean, again, I saw it first when I was, frankly, way too young to see it, but that's okay. It's not my fault. I was a kid. But yeah, this is still hilarious. The gags come rapid fire. The jokes come just boom, 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 boom the whole time. I really do think I really like for myself that I watched 0 Hour before doing this and kind of being able to watch and look at what what did they pull straight from it? What were they clearly referencing? Because some of it is like pulled whole cloth, like I said. And then some of it is just like, well, that moment in the serious movie, so to speak, inspired this gag or inspired this joke. And so it's a lot of fun to kind of get that context and understand the movie a little better that way. I will say this movie really suffers from the changes in time. Yeah. And I struggle sometimes with like, how much do you sort of like, quote unquote, hold that against a movie? It is a product of 46 years ago. This is a movie that is a very different world in 1980 than it was today. I mean, if you think about it, the Academy Award winning film, It Happened One Night, came out 46 years before this movie did. And that's like ancient history at this point. I mean, it's like, it's just, you're talking about the 30s, right? Like, so, 1934 is as close to this movie as we are, which is, takes a minute to think about, right?
Yeah, and that's a good way to kind of frame it, though. To understand it a little better.
Yeah, that having been said, it still makes it harder to enjoy the movie today, some of the stuff that's in it. So I'm giving this a 3 out of 5. I still enjoy the movie. Again, I would say I like it. I don't love it. Some of the stuff definitely still works and some of it really doesn't. And that's sort of like what's got me there at that sort of the good side of middle. That's kind of where I put it. It's on the good side of middle. I'm a 3 out of 5 on Airplane. What about you?
All right. Yeah. I mean, your points are very well taken. And I think structurally, there were parts of this movie that I'm like, oh, okay, well, you're going to move it along at some point. I do want to see 0 Hour because I think that would appreciate, but I think that this is to me the sum of its parts are greater than the whole because of just the individual jokes and scenes and how much of this film is memorable. The fact that it kind of launched Leslie Nielsen into a comedy career that we both love.
Absolutely.
You know, and taking dramatic actors and having them do this like serious delivery of crazy lines, because nobody really has a goofy delivery of anything.
No, true.
Everything is very earnest in this movie. And I really like this. This introduced me to a type of humor that I didn't know was out there and really opened up possibilities. I don't like the tribe basketball thing, but I love the jive thing. And, you know,
true.
I take my coffee the way I take my men. So I don't know, maybe I live in like the, 1993 or something like that. But I think this movie was a ton of fun. I looked back at my rating for Naked Gun to see what I gave it. I gave Naked Gun a 4.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to give this a 4 too, because this has just so much to enjoy. I don't know if you haven't seen it recently, I mean, it is interesting just to see what holds up and what doesn't.
Yeah.
But there's a lot that's just like rock solid. That's a good joke no matter what.
Yeah.
And the Leslie Nielsen part, I just love the guy.
He's
I didn't love Ted. I didn't love the main actor.
Yeah.
Elaine's, she's okay. She's funny. Her voice sounds like a fake voice, but I think that's her real voice.
I think it is. I think my issue with the two of them is that like Ted's not interesting enough to be the lead, and like no offense, I don't think Elaine is like pretty enough to be the like love interest. It's just they don't quite work in that way. Whereas Robert Stack and Lloyd Bridges and Peter Graves and Leslie Nielsen are all so amazing in this, and so wonderfully like stunt cast for the time.
Oh, fantastic! And then Kareem, you know what? Kareem was funny in this. He's been in. I've seen him in several things, and like he's a good. He's a good actor.
It's the second time we've seen him because he was in Fletch.
That's right. We saw him in Fletch, and there's still possibilities to see Kareem again too. Yeah, so I'm a 4 for this. I thought this was a lot of fun.
Nice. So we are a 7 out of 10 on Airplane, which is a little lower than the kind of critics' consensus, but I think that's where we're landing with it. I think that's a good score for Airplane, and we're going to move through Two Dads, Two Decades to the year 1981.
Yeah,
and it is your pick, Nick. What 1981 movie are we watching next week?
So 1981, I kind of maybe making a turn on this one, something unexpected, because there's a lot of really big movies from 1981, but I was thinking like in the way it fits in the sequence of what we're doing, isn't it kind of fun to watch one that I haven't seen before?
Ooh.
I don't know if you've seen it before.
I don't know.
But this movie is from 1981. It stars James Caan.
Okay.
It's one of the early efforts directed by Michael Mann. And this one is called Thief, and it's following James Caan as a safe cracker kind of thief.
Nice.
I've heard it's very, very good.
Yeah.
And I want to kind of dig into these things that I might have missed. So I think this might be a fun one to talk about.
I also have never seen Thief. This will be interesting. We'll both come into it clean. I do happen to know it was actually Michael Mann's very first feature-length film, at least major film. So that's great. Love James Caan. Huge fan of James Caan, Sonny Corleone. And yeah, I'm excited. It'll be fun to watch, and we'll both come at it, crisp and clean, and kind of see what
fresh 2025 perspective on this film.
We'll see if it holds up.
2026. Shit.
Oh my god, 2026, dude. Come on. Yeah, perfect. All right, so next week we'll watch Thief. And yeah, that's a wrap. So if you like what you hear, and we hope you do, please consider heading over to Apple or Spotify and leaving us a 5-star review. It really helps new folks find the show. Be sure to check out our website at twodads1movie.com. That's the number 2 and the number 1, where you can explore the movies we've covered, sign up for our newsletter, The Rewind, and even get sneak previews of upcoming episodes. We'd also love it if you followed us on Instagram at Two Dads One Movie. Once again, this has been Airplane, another episode of Two Dads One Movie. I'm Steve.
And I'm Nick.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Thanks, everyone.